Okay. So how can, obviously, you know, I come from the real estate. Okay, so I know a lot of things have helped me. Okay, so you're an entrepreneur, you make your own paycheck. Okay, so the bank requires you what? 2 years before you buy something. Okay, anyway, like if you're in a W-2, they require you 6 months. Okay, so if you have a regular job, okay, you've been working for 6 months, good, you get approved for this house, you get approved for this car. You say, oh, you've been an entrepreneur how long? 6 months? Oh no, we need to wait 2 years. Okay, so what happened? Let's say you're self-employed. Year number one, you made 0. Year number 2, you made 100,000. What do? They divide it by 2. They're like, okay, so he's averaging 50K a year. So whatever you want to buy, if you want to buy a house or you want to buy a car, is only 50K. Okay, you're averaging 50K. Okay, if year number 1 you made 50K and year number 2 you made another 50K, you're still averaging 50K. Okay, because you're just adding. So year number 1 you made 30 grand and year number 2 you made 70 grand equals 100 grand. Okay, divided by 2, you still average 50K. Okay, so you're gonna have to pay taxes on 50K. So how can an entrepreneur, or how can somebody who is not on a W-2, who's self-employed, how can you say, hey, whatever, you know, yeah, I made 50K, but obviously you don't want to pay taxes, right? Because out of $50,000, you're looking at about 21% of this goes to taxes. So you really, in reality, made like 38 grand. Okay, in reality. So whenever you want to buy a house, you're capped at, oh, your house, you can only buy a house that's 125K. Okay, why? Because you only made 38 grand. But what happens when you say, hey, yeah, I made 38 grand, but I also deduct 38 grand. That means you made fucking $0. Okay, and now you cannot buy a fucking house. So what happens to the barbers? Barbers can't buy houses. Why? Because all the tips that they make, even though they make good money or decent money, so they're like, oh, they don't report. They're like, oh man, I'm saving money. And they're like, oh, I'm saving money by not declaring it. Okay, what happens to servers? Oh, I'm saving money by not declaring it. In reality, they're shooting themselves in the foot. Why? Because they might have made 100,000, okay, on tips. Okay, this is something that you see a lot in Vegas. What happens in Vegas? You got the bottle girls, you know, they're getting, sometimes they're getting paid $25,000, $30,000 tips per table at night, but they just keep it all, they don't report it, okay, and they make about $5 an hour or whatever, $5.50 an hour, whatever it is, okay, so they only report their $18,000 that they made a year, they don't report the $200,000 that they made in tips. Okay, it's like, oh yeah, I'm saving taxes, you know, I'm saying I don't report it, so I don't gotta pay taxes. Okay, but what is the way around it?
Well, when I was a server, I claimed my tips because I knew I wanted to buy a 4-unit, and that's what helped me get approved
Exactly.
for it. Because I knew that's where I was going, so everybody was like, you shouldn't do that. I was like, no, I think I'm going to go buy real estate. I didn't know I was, but I was planning for that.
Okay, exactly. So, the way to do it is, yes, I made 100,000 as self-employed.
Right.
I made 100,000 employed, but you do not want to pay 34% or 35%. Okay, because right here, if you made 100K as an entrepreneur, 35% goes to federal tax, 5% for unemployment, 2% for works comp, and next thing you know, you will literally end up with like 59K. Okay, that's your take home. Okay, but what leverage do we have as an entrepreneur? It's very easy. If you made 100,000, okay, you made 100,000, but let's say you're like, hey, I'm gonna buy a car that's also 100,000. Even though you finance the whole thing, you bought a car, okay? Let's put a little car here. You bought a car, crazy car. Anyway, you bought a car, okay? You made 100K, but you bought a car that's $100,000. Even though the bank financed it all, if the car, the vehicle is over 6,000 pounds, crosses out, you pay $0 in tax, okay? Meaning you're showing the IRS, yeah, I didn't make really anything because I bought a $100,000 vehicle. Even though I made $100,000, I bought a $100,000 vehicle, it cancels out. But when you're going to buy property, it still shows as $100,000. But you pay zero in tax. You see what I'm saying? It's the same thing with real estate. Let's say, let's use simple numbers again. Okay, the same thing with real estate. Okay, as an entrepreneur, you made 100,000. Entrepreneur, you made 100,000. Okay, and you bought a $100,000 house. Let's say somehow you know the tips and tricks and you finance the whole 100K. You use FHA, which is the government assistance, and you do everything, but you finance 100,000. What happens? You can actually write off the depreciation for the first year. Okay, so that means you can write up to 40%. So you say, hey, you know what? 40% is for depreciation. Okay, so we have a residual 60K, right? So out of the 100K, you're writing off 40% depreciation, which means you only make 60 grand. Now you only pay tax for those 60 grand. You don't pay tax for the other. You see what I'm saying? So what happens when you have a house that's $500,000 and you made 100,000? 40% of $500,000 is how much? We're looking at around 180 grand. Well, you say, hey, you know what? I'm only gonna write off 20%. 20% is what? 100K. But you write depreciation. Okay? You write off $100,000 on depreciation, which cancels out your $100,000 depreciation, which means you're not paying taxes on those 100,000. You see how it works?
Yeah.
You still keep your money, but you don't pay taxes, because if you claim, oh yeah, I made 100,000, hey, you really made 59 after all the deductions that your account is trying to make you pay. Okay, so this is what you have to find out. What is it? There's things, for example, like gas. Okay, gas gets added back in as income. Okay, depreciation gets added back in as income. A $6,000 car gets added back in as income. What does that mean? That means, let's say you really made 30 grand. Okay, but you spend minus 5K in gas, minus other business expense another 6 grand, so that's 11. It will still count as a whole 30. They don't deduct it. Why? Because those are expenses that are one-time use. That's what they call, so they can get added. Therefore, whenever you go into the bank, they're like, oh, how much you made? Oh, you really made 30 grand. Instead of trying to, what many people do, oh no, I got a haircut, boom. I got my clothes, boom. I got car, I got oil, I got Next thing you know, how much you really made? I made zero. Then they go to the bank trying to get a loan. Nobody's gonna give them a loan. Why? Because they're showing that it made zero. You see what I'm saying? So this is what you gotta talk to your accountant about. Hey, you gotta tell her, all my expenses, all the expenses, I need it to be counted as income. Are they going to be counted as income? Are they going to be counted as income because I'm looking to buy real estate this year? You see what I'm saying? So you don't want to say, hey, yeah, I made 120K, but in reality, after all my expenses, I really made 10 grand. And yeah, you don't pay taxes on 10 grand. Why? You don't pay taxes on what poor people make. They don't tax the poor. That's why everybody fights to be poor on paper. People don't really understand that, yeah, they're making 20, 30 grand. They're like, oh, no, I only made $10,300. And since I got 2 kids, now the government's giving like $6,000 per kid or $6,500 per kid. Oh, so now they're gonna get, you see what I'm saying? So this is what's going on, okay? This is the incentive. Hey, if you made $10,300, you deserve $6,500 per kid. So now what's happening to the lower class people? Oh, let's just pop out kids. Boom. Now you have fucking 4 kids, 4 times 6, 24. So now they're getting 24 grand just by showing that they're poor. You see what I'm saying? They show that they're poor, meaning they cannot afford the big houses, meaning that they still need to rent, and it benefits the government. But people are not aware of that. You see what I'm saying? So you want to show that you made as much money as possible, okay, and you want to take advantage of it. It's good to have a good accountant. Okay, you want to show that you made as much money as possible, and you pay zero in tax. That is the game that people that are actually making money are making. Okay, so that's what I'm telling you. It's good.